It was a day like any other. Emma stood in front of her mirror, not expecting anything special. But as she looked at her reflection, something caught her eye. Her skin, once dull, tired, and marked with the signs of life's struggles, was glowing. Her face seemed to have transformed overnight. She didn't just look different. She looked younger. It wasn't the result of a magical cream or the latest anti-aging product. No, this was something deeper. Something unexpected. She couldn't help but smile. You see, just a few months ago, Emma was the woman who thought aging had stolen her confidence. Divorced at 55, the scars from her past seemed to weigh her down every single day. But today was different. What if she told you that it wasn't just her skin that had transformed, but her entire life? What if she had discovered 7 secrets that not only erased years from her face but also unlocked a life she had always dreamed of? One filled with confidence, energy, and beauty that made even her ex-husband do a double take. But here's the twist. Emma didn't just change her appearance. She changed her entire perspective on life. She had found a way to turn back the clock, not just for her skin but for her spirit. What did she discover? And how did this ordinary woman manage to turn her life upside down in a way that left everyone, including her ex, speechless? Stick with me, because the next few moments will reveal secrets that will completely reshape how you think about aging. The kind of secrets that not only make you look younger but feel unstoppable. Are you ready? Because Emma's journey isn't just about beauty, it's about reclaiming your life. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Emma's journey didn't start with a dramatic makeover or a sudden revelation. It began in the quietest of moments, standing in front of her bathroom mirror, with the soft morning light filtering through the window. She hadn't expected anything to change, but that day was different. The reflection staring back at her wasn't the same woman who had looked tired, worn down by years of regret and disappointment. No, this woman had a new light in her eyes. Her skin, once pale and lacking vitality, seemed to glow with life. It wasn't the work of a fancy serum or a groundbreaking beauty treatment. It wasn't even something she could attribute to a quick fix. Emma realized that the change wasn't just about what she saw on the outside, but how she had started to view herself from within. Her transformation had begun long before that morning, quietly brewing beneath the surface. It was just a few months ago that Emma had found herself staring at the remnants of a broken marriage. She'd spent years in a relationship that had slowly chipped away at her self-worth. When she found the courage to leave, there was a sense of liberation mixed with a deep, gnawing emptiness. She didn't know who she was anymore. The years had taken their toll, and she was left with the feeling that aging had stolen something precious from her. Her confidence, her sense of self, her joy. But then something shifted. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened. She had spent months trying to rebuild, not just her life, but her sense of beauty, strength, and purpose. She didn't have all the answers, but one thing became clear. She had to stop focusing on the past. She had spent too many years worrying about what others thought, especially her ex-husband. She had allowed his criticisms and the weight of their failed marriage to define her, to define how she saw herself. But that day, as she stood before the mirror, she realized something. She wasn't just a reflection of the past. She was a woman with the power to shape her future. Emma knew that if she was going to reclaim her life, she had to do it for herself, not for anyone else. The first step? She had to let go of the burden of regret. The emotional scars from her divorce had kept her trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, and she wasn't going to let that dictate her future. Slowly, she began to focus on herself, on her health, and on finding joy again. She started with the basics, the things that many of us take for granted: sleep, hydration, and nutrition. Sleep for Emma had always been an elusive companion. Years of stress, emotional turmoil, and the weight of a broken marriage had kept her tossing and turning. Her skin reflected her restless nights, dark circles under her eyes and a complexion that lacked vibrancy. But as she set her intention to transform, she knew that rest was essential. She created a peaceful, calming nighttime routine. No more late nights scrolling through her phone. No more stressing about the past. She focused on deep breathing, on allowing her body and mind to relax, and the results were immediate. Not only did her energy levels improve, but her skin began to reflect the change. The tiredness that had once been etched in her face seemed to vanish, and in its place was a fresh, youthful glow. Along with sleep, Hydration became a priority. Emma had always known the importance of drinking water, but she hadn't realized just how much it affected her skin. She made it a point to drink more water each day, understanding that proper hydration was key to keeping her skin healthy and vibrant. As the days passed, Emma noticed her skin becoming plumper, more hydrated, and less prone to the dryness that had plagued her for years. And then there was food. Emma had spent far too many years following fad diets, restricting herself, and chasing the next quick fix. But now she wanted something sustainable, something that would nourish her body from the inside out. She began eating more whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and cutting out the processed foods that had fueled her unhealthy habits. She didn't make drastic changes, but rather embraced a balanced diet that supported her physical and emotional health. With each meal, Emma felt like she was giving her body the nourishment it craved, and in return, it showed in her complexion. Her skin became more radiant, and the fine lines that had appeared around her mouth began to soften. But it wasn't just about the basics. Emma knew that to truly transform, she had to do more than just improve her diet and sleep. She had to take action and invest in herself. That's when she started exploring skincare routines. She had always been skeptical of the endless products that promised miracles, but Emma knew that if she wanted to see lasting results, she needed a skincare routine that was as intentional as the changes she had made in her life. It started small, just a simple cleanser and moisturizer. But Emma quickly discovered that there was more to skincare than just surface-level products. She learned about the power of serums, vitamin C to brighten and even out her skin tone, retinol to boost collagen production, and hyaluronic acid to lock in moisture. These were the tools she needed to combat the effects of aging and restore the vitality she had thought she lost. Slowly but surely, Emma's skin began to look and feel different. The texture became smoother, the tone more even, and the radiance she had longed for began to return. But skincare wasn't just about the products she used. It was about the time she dedicated to herself. She began to make her skincare routine a ritual, a moment of self-care that allowed her to reconnect with herself each morning and night. It wasn't just about the results. It was about the process of taking care of herself, of honoring her own needs. In doing so, Emma realized that true beauty wasn't just about how her skin looked. It was about how she felt. She was learning to love herself again. And that, more than anything, was the true secret to her transformation. In the weeks that followed, Emma began to feel a change not just in her appearance but in her mindset. The more she nurtured her skin, the more she nurtured her soul. Her confidence grew. She began to take pride in her body, her skin, and her life. She started to smile more, laugh more, and most importantly, live more. The woman who once felt invisible, hidden beneath the weight of her past, was coming into her own. And while Emma knew she had made progress, there was one thing she had yet to face. The inevitable moment when she would run into her ex-husband again. She had imagined it in her head countless times, what it would be like to see him after everything had changed. Would he even recognize her? Would he see the woman she had become? The day arrived sooner than expected. It was a casual social gathering, and there he was standing across the room. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she saw him glance in her direction. His eyes widened as they took in her new appearance. The lines on her face, once heavy with sorrow, were now softened. The energy that radiated from her seemed to captivate the room. Emma could feel the shift in his gaze, the recognition of something he had lost. But she didn't need to hear his words. The way he looked at her said it all. Emma had not only transformed her skin, but she had transformed herself. And in that moment, she knew that this wasn't just about beauty. It was about reclaiming her power, her confidence, and her life. She had done it for herself, and that made all the difference. Emma's journey had reached a pivotal moment, but the transformation was far from over. Now she had the basics in place: sleep, hydration, and nutrition. Her skin had already shown remarkable improvements, but deep down, she knew that true change wasn't just about the outside. There was still something missing, something deeper that could make all the difference. Emma understood that her skin was the reflection of not just her body, but her soul. She realized that beauty, true beauty, wasn't about chasing perfection. It was about balance. Balance between nourishing her body, calming her mind, and reconnecting with the woman she once was. This realization became the key to her next phase of transformation. She started with what most people overlook: the power of a solid skincare routine. Skincare had always felt like a chore to her in the past. Too many products with too many promises. But now it was different. Emma approached it with a new mindset, a ritual rather than a task. She carefully researched the products she needed: gentle cleansers, serums packed with antioxidants, and moisturizers that could deeply hydrate her skin. But what really changed her skin's texture were the serums she started using. She learned that vitamin C, known for its brightening properties, wasn't just a luxury, it was essential. The boost in collagen production, the even skin tone, and the glow it provided became an instant confidence booster. One day, as she applied a fresh layer of vitamin C serum, she looked at herself and realized how much the woman staring back at her had changed. It wasn't just about erasing lines or reducing wrinkles. It was about awakening something inside her. The realization that this woman was worthy of taking time to care for herself. But Emma wasn't done yet. She decided to dive deeper into her skincare routine, and that's when she encountered the world of retinol, a game changer. Retinol, a form of vitamin A, promised to help reduce fine lines, promote collagen production, and reverse some of the signs of aging. First, Emma was hesitant. She had heard horror stories about how harsh it could be, how it could cause irritation if not used properly. But she was ready to take the risk. She started slowly, incorporating retinol into her evening routine, carefully building her skin's tolerance. Over time, the results were undeniable. Her skin felt firmer, smoother, and more youthful. The fine lines she had once despised around her eyes and mouth were beginning to fade. As her skincare routine became more refined, Emma noticed another shift, an internal one. The act of caring for her skin every day became a reminder to care for herself emotionally too. She had spent so many years neglecting her own needs for the sake of others: her ex-husband, her family, her work. But now, with each serum she applied, with each gentle massage of moisturizer, she was making a promise to herself. A promise that she would never again ignore her own needs. This newfound self-love didn't just transform Emma's skin. It transformed her entire approach to life. She began to embrace her age, to see it not as a limitation, but as a badge of honor. She had lived, loved, lost, and learned. And with every year, her beauty became more profound. It wasn't about being young. It was about being comfortable in her own skin, regardless of the number of candles on her birthday cake. But the changes weren't only happening in her physical appearance. Emma began to feel a confidence and strength she hadn't felt in years. She started to walk a little taller, speak with more conviction, and smile more easily. For the first time in a long while, she felt like the woman she had always been deep down. The woman who didn't need anyone's approval, least of all her ex-husband's. It was this newfound power that led her to take another step, one she hadn't dared to take in a long time. She decided to experiment with makeup. Emma had never been one to wear much makeup. In her younger years, she didn't feel the need for it. But now, with her skin looking healthier than ever, she wanted to enhance her features. She started simple: just a little mascara, a bit of blush, and a swipe of lip gloss. The effect was subtle, but the difference was remarkable. She felt more confident, more vibrant. The woman she saw in the mirror was no longer a woman weighed down by the past. She was someone who had reclaimed her life and was ready to embrace the future. But the real turning point came when Emma decided to invest in professional treatments. She had done her research, reading up on things like facials, chemical peels, and microdermabrasion. She was cautious. She didn't want to overdo it, but she was curious. What could these treatments do for her skin, now that it was already in a better place? She scheduled her first professional facial. It was a simple treatment, nothing extreme. But as the esthetician worked on her skin, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years: relaxation. It wasn't just the physical effects of the facial, it was the emotional release. For an hour, Emma didn't have to think about anything except herself. She wasn't a mother, a daughter, a wife, or an ex-wife. She was simply Emma, a woman who deserved this time to nurture herself. And as she left the spa that day, her skin radiant and glowing, she realized that this wasn't just about looking good. It was about feeling good, about giving herself the permission to enjoy the beauty of life at any age. As the weeks went by, Emma's transformation continued to unfold. She started to feel more alive, more herself than she had in years. Her ex-husband's opinion no longer held the power it once did. She wasn't doing this for him or for anyone else. She was doing this for her own happiness. Emma had discovered something remarkable. The secret to ageless beauty wasn't found in a product or treatment. It was found in a deep, unwavering commitment to herself. And as she looked in the mirror one last time, Emma didn't just see a woman with smooth, glowing skin. She saw a woman who had reclaimed her life, her beauty, and her sense of self-worth. She had learned that true beauty wasn't just about the reflection in the mirror. It was about how she felt on the inside, and that feeling radiated outwards for the world to see. The transformation was no longer just physical. Emma had unlocked something far more powerful, something that no skincare routine or treatment could provide. A newfound strength that radiated from within. This strength wasn't just about what she saw in the mirror. It was about how she carried herself, how she approached each day, and how she interacted with the world around her. She started to move differently, more confidently, more purposefully. She realized that her body, which had always been there for her, deserved the same care and attention that she had been pouring into her skin. So, she began to incorporate movement into her daily routine. Exercise had always been part of her life, but now it wasn't just about staying fit. It was about feeling alive, feeling energized, and feeling empowered. Emma had tried many forms of exercise throughout her life, but this time she was determined to find something that would work for her. Not just physically, but emotionally. She started with yoga, something she had always been curious about but never fully committed to. At first, the movements felt awkward, and she struggled to find balance. But as the days passed, she began to see the benefits. Yoga gave her more than just a toned body. It gave her peace of mind. The gentle stretches, the mindful breathing, and the quiet moments of meditation helped calm her racing thoughts and center her emotions. It wasn't just the physical benefits that kept her coming back. It was the emotional release. With each downward dog and each warrior pose, Emma felt her body shed layers of tension and stress. She realized that exercise wasn't just about losing weight or sculpting her body. It was about regaining control, about feeling strong and capable in her own skin. As she grew stronger, both mentally and physically, Emma began to explore other forms of movement. She joined a dance class, something she hadn't done since her younger years. The music, the rhythm, the freedom, it was exhilarating. With each step, Emma felt like she was shedding more of her past, more of the woman who had felt trapped in a broken marriage. In the dance studio, she wasn't someone's ex-wife, someone's mother, or someone's anything. She was simply Emma, a woman who loved to move, loved to laugh, and loved to feel alive. But even as her body grew stronger, Emma understood that true transformation was about more than just physical strength. It was about mental resilience. She had learned the hard way that life wasn't always kind, and that setbacks were a part of the journey. But now, instead of dwelling on the obstacles that life threw her way, she saw them as opportunities for growth. She had faced a painful divorce, but she had come out stronger on the other side. She had faced loneliness, but it had led her to discover how much she could love herself. Emma began to see that the power she had been searching for all along wasn't something external. It wasn't found in a serum or in a perfect workout. It was inside of her, waiting to be uncovered. And when she unlocked it, everything else began to fall into place. Her body, her mind, her skin. They all became a reflection of the woman she had become. A woman who was unapologetically herself. A woman who was proud of every line, every experience, every lesson life had given her. Her confidence soared, but it wasn't arrogance. It was quiet, unshakable self-assurance. She no longer sought validation from others. She didn't need anyone to tell her she was beautiful, because she knew it. She didn't need anyone's approval to feel good about herself. Her transformation wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about embracing who she was, flaws and all. Emma's ex-husband, who had once been the center of her world, had now become a distant memory. She didn't spend her nights wondering what he thought of her anymore. She wasn't concerned with his opinion on her appearance, her choices, or her life. And when she saw him again, unexpectedly at a gathering, they shared a brief moment. His eyes lingered on her a little longer than they used to, his expression shifting as he took in the woman she had become. But Emma didn't need to hear his words. She didn't need any external validation. She already knew the truth. She had become someone who was truly ageless, not because of the way she looked but because of the way she felt. She had unlocked the secret to timeless beauty: self-love, self-care, and the courage to live life on her own terms. It wasn't just about looking younger or feeling more confident. It was about being confident, being at peace with herself. The woman standing before the mirror now wasn't the woman who had walked into the divorce years ago. She was someone who had learned to let go of the past and embrace her future. And that future looked incredibly bright. Emma wasn't just transforming her skin or her body. She was transforming her entire life. Each day she embraced the opportunity to grow, to become stronger, to feel better, and to enjoy every moment she had. The world around her, once filled with uncertainty and doubt, now seemed full of possibility. She was ready for whatever came next, and she knew that no matter what happened, she had the strength to face it. Her journey wasn't just about the changes she had made. It was about the way she had learned to love herself, to trust in her own power, and to embrace the beauty of life at any age. And in that, Emma discovered the most powerful secret of all. The true fountain of youth lies in the way you live your life, not just in the way you look. And as she looked at her reflection in the mirror that evening, Emma knew one thing for sure: she had never felt more alive. Emma's transformation had been nothing short of extraordinary, but now she realized the most important part of her journey was about to begin. Her physical appearance had changed. Her skin had regained its youthful glow. Her body felt stronger, and her confidence soared to new heights. But the real test wasn't how she looked on the outside, it was how she felt on the inside. It was time to dig deeper, to explore the emotional and psychological aspects of her transformation, to reclaim not just her physical beauty, but her emotional well-being. For so long, Emma had tied her worth to her past. She had allowed her divorce, the ending of her marriage, to define her. She had let the heartbreak and the loneliness shape how she viewed herself. She had spent so many years wondering if she was enough, questioning her beauty, her intelligence, and her value. The echoes of her ex-husband's words still haunted her, even after the divorce. She had never truly understood the power of self-worth until now. It was during one of her quiet moments, as she sat with a cup of tea in the early morning, that the truth hit her like a wave. She had spent so much time focusing on the outside world, on how others saw her, that she had neglected to truly look within. It wasn't just about losing weight or clearing up her skin. It wasn't about trying to fit into someone else's mold of beauty or success. It was about accepting herself exactly as she was, flaws and all. And the more she accepted herself, the more she began to love herself. Emma realized that the key to true beauty, the kind that radiates from within, lies in self-acceptance. She had always been so hard on herself, constantly striving for perfection, constantly trying to meet unrealistic expectations. But as she stood in front of the mirror that morning, she saw something different. She saw a woman who had been through hardship, who had weathered storms, and who had come out stronger on the other side. She saw a woman who was worthy of love, respect, and joy. And it was in that moment, standing there with her reflection staring back at her, that Emma made a promise to herself. She promised to stop seeking validation from others. She promised to stop comparing herself to the women in magazines or on social media. She promised to stop wondering if she was good enough, because in that moment she understood that she was enough just as she was. This promise to herself marked a new chapter in Emma's life. She began to view herself not through the lens of what had happened to her in the past, but through the lens of who she had become. She no longer saw her divorce as a failure, but as a stepping stone that had led her to where she was now. She no longer saw herself as someone who had been discarded, but as someone who had the power to rebuild, to renew, and to reinvent herself. Emma's emotional healing wasn't instant. It took time, patience, and a willingness to face her fears and insecurities. But the more she practiced self-love, the more she embraced her own worth, the more she felt a profound shift within her. She stopped living in the shadows of her past and started living for the present. Her interactions with others began to change too. Emma found that the more she loved herself, the more others began to see her differently. Her newfound confidence radiated outward, attracting people who admired her for who she was, not for what she looked like or what she could offer them. She no longer felt the need to please anyone, to mold herself into something she wasn't. She simply allowed herself to be. And that was more than enough. As Emma's emotional healing continued, so did her physical transformation. The self-care she had dedicated herself to was no longer a series of steps to fix her skin or body. It had become a sacred ritual of self-empowerment. Each time she took a moment to care for herself, whether it was a quiet yoga session, a soothing facial, or simply taking time to reflect, she felt a deep connection to her inner self. She wasn't just taking care of her skin or her body anymore. She was taking care of her soul. Her confidence grew, but it wasn't the kind of confidence that came from vanity or ego. It was the kind of confidence that came from knowing her own worth, from being comfortable in her own skin. She stopped measuring her worth by the opinions of others or by how she looked. She had discovered that true beauty was about owning who you were, without apology, without fear. And as her confidence grew, so did her sense of freedom. She no longer felt trapped by the expectations of others or by the limitations of her past. She began to explore new passions, new hobbies, and even new relationships. She found herself traveling to places she had always dreamed of, starting new projects, and meeting people who were drawn to her energy and her authenticity. Emma had become the woman she had always dreamed of being, vibrant, confident, and unapologetically herself. Her ex-husband, the man who had once held so much power over her, became an afterthought. When she encountered him again, she didn't feel the need to impress him, to seek his approval, or to prove anything. He was no longer the man who defined her. Emma had come to realize that her worth had never been tied to his opinion of her. She had found her value within herself, and that was more powerful than anything he could ever give her. The real victory, Emma realized, wasn't just in how she looked or how others saw her. It was in how she saw herself. She had rediscovered her power, her strength, and her beauty. She had learned that true transformation comes from within, and that no external force could ever take that away from her. As Emma moved forward in her journey, she felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that life would continue to present challenges, but she also knew that she had the strength to face them. She wasn't afraid of getting older anymore. She wasn't afraid of the changes that life would bring, because now Emma understood something fundamental. True beauty wasn't about resisting time. It was about embracing it, embracing every line, every experience, and every moment as part of her story. And as she stood tall, confident, and radiant, Emma knew that this wasn't just a transformation of the body, it was a transformation of the soul. She had learned that the real secret to ageless beauty wasn't in the products you used or the routines you followed. It was in the love and respect you gave yourself every single day. And that, she knew, would keep her glowing for the rest of her life. Emma's transformation had become something far deeper than she ever could have imagined. It wasn't just about looking younger or even feeling better. It was about rediscovering her true self, reclaiming her strength, and finding a sense of peace that she never thought possible. But as she stood at the pinnacle of her journey, she realized there was one more piece to uncover, something that would seal her transformation completely. Now she had the external glow. Her skin was radiant, her body felt stronger, and her confidence was unshakable. But what Emma discovered next wasn't something that could be seen. It wasn't a product, a workout, or a ritual. It was the understanding that true agelessness came from living boldly, unapologetically, and without fear. The last secret to ageless beauty, she realized, was living fully. It was about embracing every moment, every experience, and every part of her life with open arms. She had spent so much time in the past holding back, worrying about what others thought, or fearing the unknown. But now she had learned that the true power lay in stepping into life with courage, embracing the challenges, and more importantly, enjoying the ride. Emma had spent years playing it safe, avoiding risks and fearing the possibility of failure. But no more. She started saying yes to the things that excited her, even if they terrified her. It was time to take back control of her life and live it on her terms. She started traveling to places she had always dreamed of, places that once felt too far out of reach. She enrolled in a painting class, something she had always wanted to try but never found the courage to do. She spent weekends with friends, laughing and sharing stories, feeling a sense of freedom she had never felt before. But the real change came when Emma embraced the idea of vulnerability. She stopped hiding behind walls of self-doubt and insecurity. She allowed herself to open up to others, to be vulnerable, and to share her true feelings. For so long, she had kept everything bottled up inside, afraid of showing weakness. But now she understood that vulnerability wasn't a weakness. It was a strength. It was the ability to be honest, raw, and authentic with herself and those around her. This shift in mindset changed everything for Emma. She felt more alive than she ever had before. Every new experience, every new connection, brought a sense of joy and fulfillment. She wasn't living for anyone else. She was living for herself. And that was the most freeing feeling in the world. One of the most significant changes in Emma's life came when she decided to revisit her passions that she had abandoned in the chaos of her past. She had always loved writing, but somewhere along the way, she had convinced herself that it wasn't important. But now, with her newfound confidence, Emma began writing again. She filled notebooks with poetry, with stories of her life, with reflections on her journey. She even started a blog, sharing her transformation with the world, offering advice and encouragement to women who felt stuck or overlooked. Her writing became a form of therapy, a way to process her experiences and help others along the way. The more she wrote, the more Emma realized that her transformation wasn't just for her. It was meant to be shared. She began reaching out to other women, creating communities of support and connection. She shared her story with those who needed to hear it most, and in doing so, she found even more purpose and fulfillment in her life. She wasn't just transforming herself, she was helping others transform too. As the months went by, Emma felt more at peace with the world around her. She no longer looked at the years ahead with fear or regret. Instead, she looked at them with excitement, knowing that the best years of her life were still ahead of her. Age no longer held power over her. She didn't need to look like a 25-year-old to feel vibrant and alive. She didn't need to chase after youth. She had discovered that the secret to ageless beauty wasn't about resisting time. It was about embracing it fully, with all its twists and turns. The emotional and physical journey she had undergone had opened her eyes to a new way of living, one that wasn't tied to the past, wasn't dictated by societal expectations, and wasn't bound by age. It was about living in the moment, embracing the changes that life brought, and finding joy in each stage of the journey. Emma's ex-husband, the man who had once been the source of her pain and doubt, was no longer relevant to her. She had no desire to seek his approval, to prove anything to him. She had proven everything she needed to prove to herself. She had discovered the most important thing of all, that her value didn't lie in how others saw her. It lay in how she saw herself. When Emma crossed paths with him again, he seemed to notice the change in her. His gaze lingered a little longer than usual, and for a brief moment, Emma could see the recognition in his eyes. But this time Emma didn't need anything from him. She didn't need validation or apology. She had already forgiven herself and moved on. She had already become the woman she was always meant to be. In that moment, Emma understood something that changed everything. She realized that the greatest victory in her journey wasn't about looking youthful or turning back the clock. It was about embracing her age, her story, and her journey with grace and confidence. She had learned to live boldly, to love herself deeply, and to embrace every moment with open arms. And so, as she looked ahead, Emma knew that her transformation was far from over. She was just getting started. The future held infinite possibilities, and she was ready to explore them all. She had unlocked the secret to ageless beauty. It was not just about skin but about soul. It was about living fully, unapologetically, and embracing each and every moment of the life ahead. Because Emma had discovered the truth. Age is just a number. And with the right mindset, the right love for yourself, and the right confidence, life only gets better with time. And that brings us to the end of today's journey here at Her Love Blueprint. I hope you've enjoyed every moment of Emma's transformation and taken away some powerful lessons that you can apply in your own life. If you're feeling inspired, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more life-changing content like this. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What topics would you like to see us dive into next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. I truly value your input, and I can't wait to create more videos that resonate with you. Remember, the journey of self-love and empowerment doesn't stop here. It's something you can carry with you every single day. Be sure to come back and visit Her Love Blueprint for more inspiring stories, tips, and life-changing insights. As you move forward, remember that the power to transform your life is in your hands. You are worthy, you are capable, and you are beautiful inside and out. Keep going, keep growing, and always believe in yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care of yourself. Keep shining and remember, you've got this.